Hi guys, welcome back to the channel. If you've been following along, you probably noticed that there was a big difference in what I showed in episode 3, which is right over here on this picture, the before picture, where just the footings and the piers were done, to the video I just released in episode 4, in which the structure was almost completely up and skinned. So I want to take this video and kind of fill y'all in on some of the progress steps between episodes 3 and episodes 4. Unfortunately, because of my work, I was unable to make it out to the build site for about 3 weeks. So all of this progress happened within a 3-week period. So all I have to show you from the footings and the piers being poured to the structure being erected are pictures that were essentially texted to me by the builder. So they're not great resolution, not great pictures, but they're all I have to kind of walk you through. Because this is supposed to be a kind of informative channel showing you all the parts from A to B to get to build this own hangar home, I felt like it would be unfair to skip all the steps from the footings and piers to having the building up. So I wanted to make this video, show y'all kind of the steps in between, and then talk about some of the difficulties that we had trying to build this building where we are not living in the same city where this building is being built. So we're doing everything remote, just over the phone with the builder, and there's a lot of things that can kind of get dropped in. So I'll show you kind of the problems that we ran into and some of the things that we struggled with as we were building, and I will hopefully shed some light on all the stuff that happened to get the building to where it is today. So you'll remember at the end of episode 3, this is what the building looked like. This is the footings and the piers are done and laid out. This was the last thing I got to see before I went back to work. So the next step after the footings were poured was to roughen the plumbing, as the drains would be underneath the slab. Now I was very concerned about this portion of the process because once the plumbing is roughed in and the slab is poured, those drain locations are permanent. On the screen behind me is a picture of the actual plumbing rough-in plan that I sent to the plumber to describe where I wanted all the drain locations done. Now, our original plan was I was actually going to come out and be on site while the plumber was roughing in the plumbing, so I could measure and make sure everything fell where I wanted it to fall. But all of our scheduling kind of got pushed back a little bit. I had originally planned to come out and watch him do all that 2 or 3 days before going back to work. The plumbing rough-in got delayed, so I was able to make it out, but they actually didn't get the plumbing roughed in until I had to go back to work. So I was not able to actually be on site to witness him do the rough-in, which if I could do it all over again, it would have been much better for me to be out there while he was doing the plumbing rough-in. The plumber did a great job. Everything fell where it was supposed to fall. There was just a couple things that took me by surprise that I wasn't anticipating. So we'll go to some of the pictures that the builder actually texted me at work while the plumbing rough-in was being done, or actually shortly after it was completed. So here is the plumbing rough-in before they came back and filled it all in. So they trenched out, laid all the drain lines, and what took me by surprise immediately was that there was PEX laid under the slab. I actually met with the builder and talked to him quite a bit, and I was under the impression he was just going to rough in the drains. But to him, when he was saying rough in, that also included the water supply. I had originally planned that I was going to go back through and run all the water through the walls, the water supply to the appliances or the sinks and the toilets and stuff. I was going to run through the walls. I didn't realize that he was also talking about doing that during the rough-in. I had originally planned on doing all that myself, mostly to save money. But he actually included all the PEX in his quote. His quote was just not broken down into enough detail for me to realize that for him, rough-in included the drain and the water supply. So the first lesson learned from all this is to make sure you have very, very clear communication with your contractors as they're doing the work. Like I said, that took me by quite a bit of surprise. It ends up being a really, really good thing because it saves me a lot of time and effort having to run water supply to all the sinks and toilets and showers and all that, because it's all essentially done. So all I have to do is tie in water from the well, from the pressure tank, and tie everything into the hot side into the hot water heater. And everything from there, there's already water everywhere I want it to go. I just got to stub it out or connect it to the fittings, whatever I need to do to make it work for the whatever appliance I'm running water to. So here, a picture on the left is a picture of the kind of master bathroom looking out towards the shop. On the left-hand side is the toilet drain for the master water closet. On the right is one of the vanities. The other vanity is behind you. I guess in this picture right over here, it's off the camera a little bit, and then you can see the shop sink and kind of the water inlet manifold all the way up in the corner on that top left corner. And this picture right behind me is the rough-in for the guest bathroom. On the left you have the vanity, in the middle you have the toilet, on the right you have a rough-in box for the tub shower. And then over here on this right side, right here, you can also see we have PEX stubbed up. And that is actually going to be for spigots that'll come out, stub out from the wall and be a hose spigot. So another thing that I wasn't clear about, because the plumbing bid did include running the lines for the spigots, but I didn't realize it included it for all the other stuff. But if I could ask the plumber to do it over again, I would have moved this line where it stubs up for the outside spigots closer to the wall, because it kind of stubs up further inside than I would like to see it, and I'll show that to you in a little more detail later. Here we have on the left-hand side, you have the water where it's coming in from the well, essentially right here into a distribution manifold. So there's a distribution manifold that distributes all the water from there to the rest of the house, and you also have the shop sink kind of in the middle left side. On the far left side, you can see the kitchen sink drain as it's stubbed in. In this picture right behind me, and I'm blocking it, you have a picture from the shop where you have the RV drain, and then everything comes back up and ties in, and there's the water distribution manifold and the shop sink right over my head. And as you go further back, you can see the master bathroom and utility room in the background. The way that the distribution manifolds work is that all the lines stub up, and then anywhere there's a crimped connection is above the slab. So there's no crimped connections inside the slab of the PEX, which is actually really, really great, because if any of them leak, they're right here on surface where I can fix them, replace them very easily, as opposed to having leaks down in the slab. So after the plumbing was roughed in, the next step was to prep for pouring the slab. So they came back through and they backfilled clean sand inside all the forms, and they laid rebar on 1 foot centers throughout the entire slab. The entire slab is going to be 5 inches thick. I know in a previous video I talked about having a 6-inch thick area for putting the lift, but I haven't exactly nailed down where I want the lift 100% yet, an automotive lift. So I didn't have them put any 6 inches thick parts in the slab. What I plan on doing is when I install the lift, I'll get some big thick plate, and I'll make big feet on the bottom of the legs of the lift to kind of distribute the weight more evenly. Here's some more pictures of the rebar in place with the plumbing stubbed up. In this one right behind me, you have these pipe with some orange duct tape on them, and that is the only electrical line that had to get run under the slab. That is electric running to the kitchen island. All the rest of the electric, I'll run the electric through that conduit, but all the rest of the electric will be run through the walls or through the floor joist of the second floor. So there was nowhere else I needed to run conduit through the slab in order to get power anywhere. After that was all done, of course, they poured the slab. Here you can see it all done. They got the relief cuts made. You can see all the plumbing stubbed up through it. You have a much better layout or an understanding of the size of the building and where everything sits. Some more pictures that we got taken of the slab before they started erecting the building. So after the slab is poured, the next step is obviously starting to erect the metal frame. So I have just a couple pictures of the frame going up in progress. Forgive me for the potato quality. These were actually texted to me by the builder. So that's the highest resolution picture I have of the actual frame going up. But here you can see they got the 4 main columns almost all the way up. They're working on the 4th main column right now. And here they got all 4 main columns going up. They're adding the purlins across the roof here. And here they are still working on kind of that same thing, putting the purlins up, 4 main columns. You can also see a little bit here some of the extra structure around where they're going to put the hangar door. So I actually got out there the day before they started skinning the building, so I was able to get some pictures of the frame up and almost completed, and then some completed pictures of the frame. So here's a picture we have of them working on adding that additional structure above the top of the hangar door. That additional structure is there to provide an increased wind load because the wind always blows in Amarillo, so that increases the wind rating of the hangar door. Here's a picture of the frame essentially complete. You can see how they went back and they added, or how they framed around all the windows and doors. So the girts run continuous here through the walls, but then they actually added structure below and above all the windows. In better view of it here, you can see where they added girts below the window, or above the window and below the window. And they did add metal structure all the way around windows, and it hasn't been quite completed here on this door. This is a really good picture of this additional structure that they added up here, these kind of trusses that tie back into the roof purlins to add some additional structure where that hangar door mounts. Here's a good picture of the inside of the building, giving you kind of a perspective on the size of the building. So pretty good sized building, 50 by 60. Really happy with how the framing is coming together. So I was also able to come out and get a much better look at how the plumbing rough-in was stubbing up through the slab. So the first thing I did is I took a measuring tape and I measured the exact location of where everything sticks up. And then I got a bunch of pictures of these stub ups for reference so that I could come back home and kind of work on my framing plan to see if and what needs to get modified. So I'll kind of go through some of those pictures so you get an idea of what it looks like. So this first picture you have coming up is the water supply for the master shower, but you can also see that there's a kind of a distribution manifold here from where he brought hot water over to the utility room. This is the wall between the utility room and the shower and the master bathroom, and he brought water over and then he distributed from here. So this is kind of his distribution network that the plumber added. Also on the right hand side of the screen is the drain and the hot and cold supply for the washing machine. And right here, and I'm covering it up, here is the drain for the shower, the master shower. Kind of a better view of that here with where you can more clearly see where the shower is and the water supply for running water to the shower. In this top kind of corner above my head, that's the toilet drain for the water closet in the master bathroom. Here is a sink. I actually don't remember which sink this is, but it's a sink on an exterior wall, so it's either the kitchen sink or one of the vanities in the master bathroom. And you can see how that runs all the way up to these 8-inch girts that go up on the exterior walls. Now, one of the problems I did kind of run into is I was planning on framing all this stuff up with the 2x4 wall, and this actually sticks out far enough from the exterior wall that I can't cover it up completely with the 2x4. So when I frame this 2x4 wall, I'll have to leave a gap right here, and then underneath the vanity, underneath the sink, I'll have to build a false back that comes forward a few inches that'll cover up that drain and that water supply. So not really a big deal, but I will have a little bit of gap in my bottom plate on my framing here because I won't be able to run a 2x4 is not wide enough to swallow and cover up all this distance. And I don't want to cheat that whole wall in a few inches to cover up all that drain and put all that in the wall. So we figured out what was a better option would be to push the wall all the way up to the girt like we had originally planned, and then I'll build a false back in the vanities to hide the drain and the water supply coming up out of the slab. Here is a picture of the kitchen sink, and I know it's the kitchen sink because here we have the conduit that runs power to the kitchen island. Now, I want you to notice how they were able to kind of cut a little hole in this skirt here for this conduit to stub up through, and this is how I wish we had plumbed the spigots going to the outside hose hookups. So I wish we had done that so that the PEX, as it stubbed up, would be a little bit more protected and not kind of floating out in the middle of the shop. And I'll show you that once again a little bit later. It'll be more clear kind of where that stuff stubs up. Here is the kind of water distribution manifold coming from the water supply from the well. So the well ties in here, and then they distribute all the cold water here. This is just in, and then the hot water heater will tie into here, and this will distribute hot water to the rest of the building. Here is a copy of a spigot. So this is the spigot. They already put the end on. I believe they did that just to pressure test all the PEX lines. So that's when they went ahead and put that end on. But you can see how it's going to come up, and then it'll have to elbow over and stub out through the wall. I wish we had stubbed it up here in the middle of the skirt to kind of protect it a little bit more. This particular one is not that big of a deal, and that'll be clear in a minute too, because I am going to show you where all these things fell in comparison to my floor plan, and I'm going to have to build a box to cover up that distribution manifold anyway, so this will be kind of protected, but there's another one that's over by the garage doors that's not very well protected. Here is the plumbing drain coming out to where it will go into the septic, and here is that same kind of distribution manifold with the spigot for testing. Here is where the water supply will come in from the well. Here is the guest bathroom with the rough-in box for the shower tub, the toilet drain, and then the sink drain here. Close-up view of the sink, close-up view of the toilet, close-up view of the rough-in box for the shower tub, the tub that will have a shower in it also. And here's kind of a view of the entire guest bathroom utility room. So we have one vanity here on this wall. We have another vanity here. This will be on the wall between the master bathroom and the living space. We have the shower drain. We have kind of that distribution manifold here that will be hidden in the wall between the shower and the utility room. We have the drain for the washing machine, and we have the water closet, toilet, and water supply here. Here's a view of a this is a view of a sink, the drain and the water supply, another sink, water closet, and then that wall in between the shower and the utility room. The shower drain right there. Here's a picture of the plumbing and the electrical rough-in for the kitchen. So here's the main kitchen sink rough-in, and also the electrical conduit here, which runs power to the slab, power through the slab to the kitchen island. Here we have similar problem to like I described over on that vanity for the master bathroom. The water supply lines stick far enough in from that 8-inch girt on the ground there that we'll have to actually build a false back underneath the kitchen sink to hide all that plumbing. I won't be able to hide all that in a 2x4 wall. There's the stub up for the kitchen island electrical, and that's the last photo I have of the rough-in. So here we are looking at the actual plumbing rough-in locations as I measured them plotted over the floor plan. So remember, I gave the plumber just that drawing with all the drain locations and he roughed it in. And all in all, he did a really, really good job. Everything fell exactly where it needed to go. So we can start here looking at the guest bathroom. Here are the locations of all the rough-ins as he stubbed them up through the slab. This one is actually pretty close. The only thing we may do is we may cheat this wall over an inch this way in order to get everything to fall nice and even in the middle of that wall. It all depends on how far I can get that over before I run into the drain for the P-trap that will rough in under the grade of the slab. Here is that spigot, one of the 3 spigots. This one I should be able to hide in that 2x4 wall, but I wish I had it stub up here kind of inside that 8-inch girt on the bottom, that floor base plate from the metal building structure. Here we have kind of the rough-in locations of the master bathroom and the utility room. Here you can see you get kind of close to where we planned, so we can either A, cheat the wall over just a little bit this way, or B, we can do the false back in the back of the vanity to kind of hide where everything comes up out of the floor. And the same sort of thing over here. They fall just a little bit too far away from the wall to hide everything inside of a 2x4 wall. So we'll have to build a false back here in this vanity to hide that plumbing rough-in. The shower stub is pretty close to centered where we want it. And here is that distribution manifold as it stubs up between the wall and the utility room and the shower. We're going to have to cheat this wall over an inch or 2 this way in order to make everything work. The other issue that I have is from outside to outside of this whole sort of thing is 1 foot 9.5 or 1 foot 9. So that's 12 plus 9 is 17 inches. So you can see that's going to be kind of tough to frame around. I'm going to have to dodge my studs to try and straddle that, and I may have to do something like a header or something above because I won't be able to have any studs that run down in this area. This is not a particularly important load-bearing wall, so it shouldn't be a problem, but I will have to adjust my stud placement to kind of dodge this manifold, kind of distribution manifold that he had stubbing up in this wall. And like we said, we'll definitely end up cheating this wall probably a couple inches over this way to the south. And that wall will need to line up with this wall, so we'll have to make sure we don't cheat it so far that these are no longer hidden in the wall. So everything will have to match. We'll have to line up this entire wall. We'll want to cheat over just a little bit this way. Here you have where they stubbed up the kitchen sink. Same sort of thing. Probably going to have to build a false back in this cabinet here to kind of hide where everything's stubbed up. We did end up stubbing that electrical conduit, and if you remember, it stubs up somewhere right back here inside of this wall, and I wish we had done that. So all of this that we talked about so far, everything has been pretty good. Everything is more than manageable. We get over here to kind of the water inlet to the house where things started acting where I hadn't really planned. So all of this obviously sits outside this wall. So I need to build a box or something around this to cover all that stuff up. So I think what the plumber had in mind was that you build a box that covers all this stuff up, and on top of that box is where you set your hot water heater. I'm going to run a water softener. So the water will come through a water softener, go to a hot water heater, it'll come in, go to a pressure tank, then a water softener, and then a hot water heater, and I can put all that stuff on top of that box, and I can have kind of containment underneath all of that. So if something overflows, it'll all have the same containment pan that will either get directed outside or get directed to a drain, one of the two. And since I have to build a box to cover all this stuff up, it's no big deal that I have to build a box to cover up this spigot as well. So this spigot kind of floating out in the shop will all end up getting covered up by this box. The shop sink, pretty good. Fell pretty close to where we wanted it to run. And then the RV drain, that's really not that critical. That could have lied anywhere in this general vicinity and I would have been happy. And then over here, we have this last spigot. And that's the same sort of thing. The spigot stubs up. It'll be outside the wall of the house, but it's also outside of the 8-inch girts that run along the bottom of the slab. So I'll have to elbow this up and bring it all the way over, and this is kind of just floating out in space unprotected. So I may have to build a box or something to cover it up. The last thing we want is someone to hit it with, if I push a toolbox on wheels or something over and I accidentally bump it and break the pecs, or if I throw a tool or something, accidentally bump it with a car, because here's the garage door. This PEX is just kind of exposed and unprotected, which is why I wish I had specified stubbing it up a little bit closer to the exterior wall. But all in all, the plumber did an excellent job. Everything is exactly where it needs to be, and the only added work that I'm going to have to do is I may have to cheat one wall over a little bit, 2 walls over a little bit, something like that, and I'll have to build some false backs inside of vanities, but that's really not that big of a deal. So everything laid out pretty much where I wanted it. So fairly happy. Some small things that I would fix if I could go back and do it over again. But all in all, the plumbing rough-in turned out pretty good. And of course, the last step after the structure's up is to start hanging the sheet metal on the outside. I don't have any good pictures of them actually hanging the metal up, but they've made a ton of progress. This is where we were at the end of episode 4. I think in the last couple days, they've actually got the roof on and got the other 2 walls done. So that gets you caught up to where we are today. So thanks so much for watching this episode. I hope I was able to fill in some of the gaps between episode 3 and episode 4, because so much stuff did happen. That's just part of the issue when you're trying to build something like this remote. I just can't be out there all the time, even though I want to be. So you really need to have a good builder, someone that you trust to do the job right, and then you just hope for the best and hope everything turns out the way you want it. So once again, thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you on the next one.